What's going on? In this video I'm going to be talking about coffee and testosterone. So let's get into it. So a lot of individuals think that drinking coffee is going to cause stress, anxiety, it's going to lower their testosterone levels. They think it's going to mess with their recovery. But I have a different opinion. I have a different perspective in regards to coffee, and I'm going to get into it today. And I'm going to get into how to actually use coffee, because a lot of individuals don't know how to actually use coffee, and that's why they see all these bad results with using coffee. So let's get into it. So I'm going to present to you some studies in regards to testosterone and coffee. I'm going to give you other amazing benefits of coffee, and I'm going to get into exactly how you can use coffee yourself. So let's get into it. So as you can see in this study here, it showed that 4 milligrams per kilogram of caffeine taken 1 hour before exercise was able to raise testosterone levels by 12% in elite athletes when compared to placebo. Cortisol was also increased by 21.3%. You're probably thinking to yourself, you're not a professional athlete. No problem, I have more. So in this study showed that chewing gum with 250 milligrams of caffeine, which is the nootropic in coffee, was able to furthermore increase exercise-induced testosterone boost by 14% when compared to placebo. So as you know, training boosts testosterone levels. There was a study done in which men trained full body 3 times a week for 4 weeks and their testosterone levels increased by 40%. So you get an additional 14% when compared to the placebo when using caffeine. What's odd is that cortisol actually decreased in this study, probably due to the chewing motion, which according to research reduce stress. So chewing, eating food, that lowers your stress. That's why individuals who have issues with stress, they're usually overweight. They have issues with gluttony because they eat to relieve their stress, right? Then in this study, the researchers gave their subject different doses of pre-workout caffeine. So you have 200, 400, 600, and 800 milligrams. In all groups, exercise-induced testosterone release was boosted by the ingestion of caffeine. And the increase was most significant in the group that received 800 milligrams of caffeine, 19%. Cortisol increased by 44% in the group which received the highest dosage. That's a lot of caffeine. I would be careful. You want to build up to that. You don't want to start, because I know guys out here, when they hear, oh, the more I take, the more testosterone I'll produce. So what if I take 10 grams of caffeine? You know, don't think that way. Be careful. There's a diminishing returns when it comes to things like that. So be careful. And I'm going to explain to you why exactly. So let's get into the other benefits of caffeine. So coffee drinkers have a lower incidence of thyroid disease, including cancer. Tannin drinkers, so thyroid disease, including Okay, then another one. Caffeine protects the liver from alcohol and other toxins, and coffee drinkers are less likely than people who don't use coffee to have elevated serum enzymes and other indications of liver damage. So drinking coffee on a regular basis improves your liver. Caffeine protects against cancer caused by radiation, chemical carcinogens, viruses, and estrogens. Because what caffeine does when you consume it, as you can see for yourself, it increases your metabolic rate. And I'm going to get into why exactly some individuals are addicted to caffeine and why they like it so much. And I'm going to get into more of that in a bit. So caffeine synergizes with progesterone and increases its concentration in the blood and tissues. Coffee provides very significant qualities of magnesium, which is an electrolyte, as well as other nutrients including vitamin B1. B1 is a water-soluble vitamin. Caffeine improves efficiency of fuel use and performance. Coffee drinkers have a low incidence of suicide because it boosts your dopamine levels, it boosts your testosterone levels, you feel good. You're high on life. Caffeine supports serotonin uptake in nerves and inhibits blood. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Aggression. So basically, you're getting rid of serotonin more. Do you ever feel like before you drink your coffee, sometimes you feel kind of slow, kind of groggy? That's because your serotonin levels are high. And when you consume caffeine, you get rid of it. Caffeine inhibits iron absorption if taken with meals, helping to prevent iron overload. So I remember I used to consume a lot of rice, and rice is high in iron. And I didn't want to have too much iron, so I would consume some caffeine with the rice. Caffeine, like niacin is a vitamin B3, inhibits protecting against stress-induced cell death without interfering with normal cell turnover. Caffeine can prevent nerve cell death, so on and so forth. And you're probably asking, Alex, where are the references? So if you click here, this brings you to Ray Peat. I've been studying this guy for years, but you can check out the articles down here. So it goes deep into everything you need to know in regards to that. So you know that there's sources for this, that I'm not making these things up. And I'm going to leave the link for this document down below. Now, how to use caffeine strategically. There's something that Ray Peat talks about, is a combination of low thyroid and undigested food is the usual cause of those sleep problems. So if you have issues with your metabolic rate, you have like your low thyroid, low metabolism, low energy output, and undigested food, you have issues with your gut. These are the reasons why you're not sleeping properly. Since blood sugar normally falls at night, and with hypothyroidism, the low blood sugar causes intestinal inflammation and activates the stress hormones. Milk with sugar or honey or ice cream lowers the stress response. A little coffee and aspirin at bedtime can lower some of the chemicals that cause wakefulness. I've tried this, I got my clients to try this, and it works very well. The reason why you wake up in the middle of the night is because when you're sleeping, your body depletes glycogen stores, and it initiates a stress response to deplete glycogen from your muscle tissue to fuel the liver. So specifically, liver glycogen stores are depleted. So caffeine is a nootropic. So I'm going to get into how to use caffeine strategically. I'm going to go deeper into all of these. So caffeine is a nootropic which boosts dopamine. Caffeine is a nootropic just like nicotine, piracetam, all these things. Caffeine enhances your current state. So if you're stressed, you'll become more stressed. So I see a lot of guys consuming caffeine, but it stresses them out. The reason behind that is because they're in an anxious, stressful state, and it's going to enhance that stressful situation. Another thing, fix your metabolic rate. So your heart rate and temperature. So if you have a low heart rate, low temperature, you need to ask yourself why. Your metabolic rate is low. Headaches are caused due to low choline levels. 90% of Americans are deficient. So think of choline as the fuel that nootropics use to better utilize nootropics, and choline being one of them. And if you're depleted in choline, you're going to get headaches. So if you fix that deficiency, you may get rid of headaches. If you need coffee every day, see if you have a low metabolic rate. So my best clients forget about coffee, and I remind them to use it to enhance their state. So think about it this way. Do you ever see individuals, they're addicted to smoking because of the nicotine, because nicotine boosts T and improves your metabolic rate. Minus the actual cigarette, which is toxic, right? But the actual nicotine does the same thing, caffeine. People are addicted to the gym. People are addicted to running. Why do you think that is? And they only feel good when they're in that state of doing whatever it is that they're doing, because it increases the metabolic rate. If you have a low metabolic state constantly, you're going to do things naturally that enhance your dopamine and boost your metabolic rate. That's why some people like sport. Some people like things that make their metabolic rate increases and they get joy, right? But you can do that naturally through proper nutrition and lifestyle. But a lot of guys, it's like they train or they use a lot of caffeine because they're always low, and when they use that coffee, they feel good for a bit. But in reality, they just have a low metabolic rate and they have a underlying issue. And the things like, for instance, cocaine. The reason why cocaine is so dangerous is not because of the actual drug, it's because cocaine increases your metabolic rate so fast that your body churns energy so quickly that that the micronutrients that you're consuming can't keep up with the demand. That's why it's a fast way to, which leads to micronutrient deficiencies. When you look at drug addicts, hair is falling off their faces. The reason behind that is due to the micronutrient deficiencies, because the drugs just burn the energy super quickly. Why do you think people like drugs? Because it makes them feel so good. Well, you can do that naturally through proper nutrition, training, lifestyle, and supplementation. And I teach it all the time in clients. It's not that hard. Why coffee first thing in the morning is not the best idea, and what to do if you want to use it in the morning. So a lot of guys, individuals, when they wake up in the morning, they have their coffee. The problem with that, you've just went 8 hours fasting. You haven't consumed any carbohydrates and your glycogen stores are probably depleted. When you start consuming caffeine, which increases your metabolic rate, it can cause you to stress out, get anxious. You go into a hypoglycemic state, which increases your serotonin levels. And sometimes you'll be even running on stress hormones. I know a lot of guys like to do intermittent fasting. That's what I used to do for 3 years straight. And I regret doing it because you want to fuel your body, right? And a lot of guys out there, yeah, boy, if I eat a breakfast, I feel better when I don't eat a breakfast. Yeah, if you go from eating shitty to eating nothing, obviously you will feel better. But what if I told you if you eat properly, you know how to fuel your body? Because the reason why you feel so bad when you wake up in the morning is because you're probably running on stress hormones. And when you eat something, it lowers that stress response, hence why you feel low energy. Or you're eating the wrong foods, you have a lot of endotoxins, and you're consuming particular type of foods that affect your gut biome and it causes brain fog. A clear gut is a clear mind. So these are the reason behind those things. You always have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Why is there, back in the days, people ate breakfast and now I can't because I feel awful, you know? Ask yourself those things. So if you do want to use coffee in the morning, make sure that you're eating in a caloric surplus for a prolonged period of time, because the day before you've ate enough to, still fuel you throughout the day. The biggest issue is when you're in a constant caloric deficit and the next day you're constantly depleted of glycogens and you're constantly, hypoglycemic, then your stress hormones, serotonin, so on and so forth, So make sure you fuel your body first thing in the morning. You have your sugar, honey, something quick, dairy, so you get it into your system and you can have some caffeine with it, but make sure you fuel yourself properly. Cycle off coffee here and there. Why not? Reset the tolerance. Avoid caffeine on a keto diet or restrictive dieting because it can cause more damage. Because your glucose is like it said here. What is it? Caffeine improves efficiency of fuel use and performance. The fuel that your body uses is glycogen, glucose. Think about it this way. Individuals who are on the ketogenic diet, which is low carb, no carbohydrates, their body wants carbohydrates so bad, if they consume too much protein, it goes through a process called gluconeogenesis, which is the creation of new glucose from protein. That's how much your body wants glucose, right? And I'm talking based on experience. I used to do the ketogenic diet and it damaged me a lot. So be careful. And restrictive dieting. Why do you think when you're in a caloric deficit and you're dieting, you constantly crave caffeine? Because it increases your metabolic rate, your energy. But it's short-lived and you keep needing it. And then your body goes into stress, so on and so forth. And the reason why a lot of individuals, even though their diet is amazing, whatever it is, even I would question that. Make sure you're consuming organic coffee and make sure there's no mold. I see a lot of guys, they're using, that coffee, the soluble coffee in the powders or whatever, that's not good coffee. They're using regular coffee that you just buy, or whatever's the cheapest, whatever it is, okay? That's bad. And they go to the shop, go McDonald's or whatever, and they use bad coffee. I used to work in McDonald's when I was 19 years old, 4 years ago. And, mold builds up. And mold is what causes the anxiety, what makes you feel funny when you consume coffee. Just treat yourself. Let's say you never bought organic coffee. Treat yourself to organic coffee, right? Make it properly, use proper water, make it properly, and look at the difference of how you feel compared to regular coffee. See how you feel. And I would recommend that you get organic coffee on a consistent basis, because you're consuming this on a daily basis. It's in your routine. It's something you should prioritize, because it's what you do on a consistent basis affects you long term, right? If you once in a blue moon go to the restaurants with your friends and you're having some sushi and you have some soy, that's not going to kill you, because life is life, you get on with it, things like that happen. But something that you're doing on a daily basis that you can change, things like that and especially blockers. You always want to remove blockers from your life. If you have consuming mold on a daily basis and like pesticides from the coffee, and remember, coffee is a mass produced food that everyone drinks in the morning. It's mass produced. Imagine the pesticides that they have to use to speed it up, to take care of it, because the profit margins have to be there. Think about these things, If you can't handle coffee, is your liver okay? So your liver health will determine whether or not, if you consume coffee and you feel anxious, you can go for the whole day. Ask yourself why that is. And another thing, if you consume coffee and you're really addicted to it, look into your hormones as well. If you have high DHT, when you get a dopamine spike, which happens due to the consumption of caffeine, when you have high DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone, so it goes testosterone, then dihydrotestosterone, that dopamine spike gets prolonged, and that's what gets you driven, motivated to do things, right? That's what builds businesses. But then if you have high estrogen, that dopamine spike gets cut in half, and thus you keep craving more of it. The reason why you would have high estrogen is due to your nutrition, your environment, mold, endocrine disruptors, too much body fat in your body, and other aspects. So yeah, this is the truth about coffee. Coffee is not dangerous if you know how to use it and you really understand it. I personally like using coffee on a daily basis. I even use coffee before I go to sleep. And this is something out of the realm of most people. People think, oh, caffeine, how can you drink coffee before you go to sleep? You must have your adrenaline or your stress hormones are just messed up. That's why you can fall asleep. No, because when you're in a high metabolic rate and you fuel yourself properly, caffeine just enhances it. And the reason why you get anxious is because you're drinking bad coffee. Imagine you just drank a hot cup of chemicals. Obviously, you're going to be anxious and stressed out. Just think about that, okay? Hopefully, you got some value out of this video. And yeah, if you have any questions, drop them down below, and I'll see you later. Peace.